Hello and welcome back to the Saga of the Clone Saga, aka the Clone Zone. This is. Did I start too early? This
No,
is the. I can't. I don't have a live.
Started too late.
This is the podcast. I'm doing it from my phone, so the live thing didn't show up. And
no,
whatever.
Matt, shut up. Shut up, Matt.
You did a good job.
Welcome to the Saga of the Clone Saga, aka the Clone Zone. This is the podcast where we use the S.H.I.E.L.D. Mikey, mute your mic. Jesus Christ.
I thought my intro last week was the worst one,
I am
but
working with amateurs.
double dose.
This is the
Can we just
podcast.
start over? Can we just
I'm trying to start over. We the students of S.H.I.E.L.D.
end the stream? End the stream. We need a whole new video.
We're doing it live.
We read through
It's live,
Clone-related Spider-Man stuff. It's bad. Sometimes it's decent. This time it was decent. Let's talk about that.
My name's Matt. We're sponsored by Gillette and Tom Brady, and also talk about Scarlet Spider. Is that it? Are we done?
I'm Billy.
I'm Mike.
I'm Mikey. And I'm Vincent. And today we're talking about the Scarlet Spider coming out of Spider Island, the new status quo for Kaine. And first we read a few pages of Marvel Point 1. And if you try and Google Marvel Point 1, it gets confusing because then Marvel continued to do these Point 1 oversized one-shots for like 4 years in a row. So there's Marvel Point 1, Marvel Now Point 1, All New Marvel Now Point 1, or whatever the hell they called it. So it's confusing. The creative team on the pages that we're actually caring about is Christopher Yost and Ryan Stegman. And Christopher Yost, he wrote some other stuff, including, I believe Thor: The Dark World.
You wrote part of
What?
that movie, yeah.
Yeah, let me double check.
Oh,
He
Chris.
transitioned mostly into writing for some of the Marvel films.
Yeah, he co-wrote at least Thor: The Dark World and Thor: Ragnarok. So you win some, you lose some.
Well, mention the good things he's written.
All right, the good things he's written is he created X-23. For that. Wait, did he? I'm pretty sure he did.
That sounds right.
Well, he also did the X-Force run.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Well, so Chris Yost often collaborates with Craig Kyle, and I believe they both worked on X-Men Evolution, where X-23 was introduced. The Wikipedia claims X-23 was created just by Craig Kyle, so maybe he wrote the episode or whatever. But Yost, and I believe some of these are just Yost and not with Kyle. He wrote some of X-23's first X-23 series, but of course, her introduction to the Marvel Universe was in the fucking awful Nyx, and that is where which is a series about child prostitutes.
Yeah.
And then Yost, with Kyle, he wrote a run on New X-Men, not to be confused with the Grant Morrison core X-Men book, which was retitled from the Adjectiveless X-Men. This is the other New X-Men, which is about little kids. And at this end, the prominent characters, you had X-23 during their run. You had a major arc with Magic, Hellion, Elixir, that generation of mutants, and a really, really good run. And then the two of them worked on X-Force in the late 2000s, and that was when you had Clayton Crane and other more gritty art, and you had a way more violent, proactive take, which is now what people think of X-Force, and was what it was in the first place, but a little bit more in your face. And that's when you had, again, X-23 on that team, Wolverine, Warpath, other people
on that team, along with Archangel, I think, near the end.
Yeah. And then that X-Force run evolved a little bit into Uncanny X-Force. And so you had a really strong period of X-Force.
And then Yost also wrote Red Robin, right? think he did.
Yeah, he wrote the first chunk of Red Robin, and then Fabian Nicieza took it over.
Yeah.
And he's done some other stuff. He's done a little bit of other X-Men related things, a lot of Spider-Man related things besides what we're talking about today, and a little bit of Avengers things. I think he's generally a pretty great comic book writer for this era and everything. He's like, I kind of think of, there are a few writers that were heavily involved with Spider-Man in this era, but not really like fully on Spider-Man itself. And so you have Christopher Yost, Zeb Wells, Christos Gage, and all of them I just see as like very like competent, pretty strong writers for Spider-Man and Spider-Man related characters. But obviously through this entire era, for an entire decade, everyone sits in the shadow of Dan Slott, for better or worse.
And how do you feel about Ryan Stegman's art? Because I've always liked Ryan Stegman's art.
I
Everyone
really
thinks
like
I'm mean,
it.
but I think it's fucking amazing.
It's cool.
It's incredible.
He's currently probably at his highest profile ever. He's the main artist on Donny Cates' Venom, which has been very successful, and even got to write and draw a Venom spinoff. I don't know when that starts, if it's already started. There are too many Venom books.
Venom First Host, right?
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Either that or the Vietnam one. Who wrote the was that fun? I don't know.
That's First Host.
No,
Yeah, Vietnam.
I think Venom is whoever was writing the series when it sucked before Kate.
That Mike Costa?
Yeah, I think Costa's Venom.
I think so.
I don't know, or the other way around. I think maybe Costa's First House. There's too many Venom books.
Yeah.
There's too many Venom books, and that's coming from me.
And other stuff, Stegman, he also, actually, I don't know if Venom is his biggest profile thing because, of course, he did a lot of Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah, and he also worked on Renew Your Vows with Conway.
Yeah. So I think he's great. I'm really bad at critiquing art. I'm not sure how I would really describe his style, but it's like a little scratchy. I don't know how to describe art, but I think he's perfect for Spider-Man, but also is very unique. Like it's not like he looks necessarily like other major Spider-Man artists like McFarlane or Bagley or Romita Ditko and stuff like that. So into the plot, into the status quo. Kaine, he's fixed now. He's not scarred all over. He's lost certain powers, but has like more default Spider-Man powers. I don't think that was ever fully explained to us, and it's not here. I'm pretty sure. So in the beginning of this short story, he doesn't have spider sense, unlike Peter.
Right.
Which just because, I guess. And specifically, well, the importance of the spider sense also is that if we remember, Kaine, all of Kaine's powers in the 90s were like really stupid, super accelerated versions of Peter Parker's. So he was just really, really fucking strong. And his mark of Kaine was like a super advanced version of sticking to walls somehow. And he could like see visions of the future, and that was his version of spider sense.
That's stupid.
He doesn't have any of that, and he's in North Carolina at this point. He's trying to get on his way to Houston and eventually crossing over the border to Mexico to just chill the fuck out. And he gets on a bus, and the bus driver, you guys can tell me if you think I'm reaching, but the bus driver is Stan Lee, right?
Yeah.
The bus driver said, like,
Yeah, looks like him.
Which I thought was fun. But there's a bank robbery going on, so he's like, damn it, I'm gonna go stop this bank robbery. And
Well,
This
the thing with bank robbery though is that the bank robbers are wearing masks of superheroes. So, Spider-Man Homecoming, did you take that from this?
yep.
Ooh.
Yeah, honestly, it kind of did.
I mean, this has definitely been used before.
Impossible.
Um, and speaking of masks, we see Kaine put on his mask. And in this short story, we never get like the full reveal of the whole costume, which I think is actually good. I mean, that's kind of, that's a great tease for the point of this story.
But did you like him wearing a blue hoodie over the costume?
Yes.
Yeah, so did I.
So his mask is red, and we don't really get the full answers to this until way later on this episode. But it's totally not the stealth suit.
No, it's not.
Well, it is. Spoilers, which we'll get to. Um, it, they really just wanted this cool design costume, and then later they're like, "Well, I guess we have to make a dumb explanation."
Well, I mean, to be fair though, it's a really cool costume.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
black mask with the red eyes totally works.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
There are a lot of bad variations of the Spider-Man costume. Probably more bad ones than good ones. I think this is one of the better ones.
well, if you want to look at the more bad ones, just look at what was in the Spider-Man PS4 game. But the
Yeah.
funny thing is, though, is the original sketches for the original black suit, it was black and red, not black and white. So
Right.
I can't help but think did they use those original sketches as a basis and then ran with the black and red?
Also, I don't mean to divert, but I'm going to. They added Bombastic Bagman and the Future Foundation suits to Spider-Man PS4.
Yeah. Where's
That's
and
cool.
where's the Baxter building?
I've been waiting for that suit for so long. The bombastic Bagman suit.
Yeah.
Cool. Add the Baxter building in.
Scarlet Spider.
So Kaine, he stops the bank robbers, and he doesn't kill people, even though he doesn't have problems with other things. And this issue, this story, basically ends with him deciding he's going to walk to Mexico. Whatever. He's on his way, but he stopped this bank robbery, and he's kind of maybe a hero. Also, we should note that he has a goatee. And that makes me question some of the timing stuff, because at the end of Spider Island, does he have a goatee? I don't remember. I don't think he did.
No, he comes out of that clean shaven, I believe.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So between then and now, he grows a goatee, but it's entirely pointless. Also, I'll just quickly acknowledge what else was going on in the Marvel Universe and in this Marvel Point One teaser anthology. We also have teases for Bendis' Age of Ultron event flowing out of his Avengers run. And this is really the dog days of Bendis Avengers. We have Matt Fraction's Defenders, which Marvel kind of like teased as like, hey, it's the big return of the actual Defenders, with Doctor Strange and Silver Surfer and everything like that. But the runs, people will disagree with me. I think our friend Brandon is a big fan of the run or something. I may be just imagining that, but I don't like it. And
I know he does like it, but I've heard very mixed things on his run, and it's only 2 volumes, which are now, I guess, hard to find.
Yeah. And the other tease here is for David Latham's Age of Apocalypse, which spins out of Rick Remender's Uncanny X-Force, and completely unnecessary series. That got a full 12 issues.
Do you own it?
Yes. And in fact, one of the volumes is pretty hard to find. And probably way more important than Scarlet Spider, Marvel Point One is the first appearance of Sam Alexander Nova
Oh,
Yay.
by Jeff Loeb and Ed McGuinness. And then Jeff Loeb writes 6 issues of the ongoing series.
cool? Question mark.
Yeah.
No.
I don't like. Well, I don't really have a problem with Sam. I just hate the how Marvel just pretended Rich didn't exist for like 5 years. But that's more of a Bendis problem.
Well, I
than-
mean, he's back now, right?
yes.
So
Now
He came back for that 7-issue solo series that no one bought.
I have it on the shelf. So now let's jump into Scarlet Spider Volume 2. Because remember, Scarlet Spider Volume 1 is when they renamed Advent of a Spider-Man for 2 issues. And so number 1, I think it's a great cover on the debut issue.
yeah,
Probably the best cover among this selection.
I mean,
I mean, I have this cover in my collection somewhere, but
Well, yeah,
That's a pretty cool cover.
It's a showcase of the new suit, which I think is the best way to sell people on this book. So
the new suit, and you get lots of I don't know if you'd necessarily call them spaghetti webbing, but you get lots of webs, lots of detail.
intricate. I call it intricate web work, not really spaghetti webbing.
well, the thing with it is, it does mirror the famous. Well, not mirror, but I think it takes inspiration from the famous McFarlane Spider-Man #1 covers. But I guess if you want an iconic Spider-Man cover, just put the character front and center of the page with a lot of webs in the background.
Yep.
Yeah.
Billy was talking about the sometimes lacking video aspect of our podcast. And so I figured I would bring some props for this episode, as I occasionally do. First, I want to just show that this is the disassembled arc, which we mentioned frequently during Spider Island, because that was a sequel to it. And on the back, they don't use one of the covers on the trade where he's like a full fucking weirdo spider. And then this is the cover we were just talking about for Scarlet Spider #1 with some nice glare. And then Volume 2, we're not going to touch at all. Not really relevant. And then Volume 3, parts of this will be our next episode. You see Superior Spider-Man right there. And then Volume 4, which we teased towards the end of this episode, that will be our episode 2 episodes from now. And it's nice, tight run, and Marvel has made it impossible to get for the moment. And all right, so let's jump in with this new series. At some point, there's like flashback or minor action and stuff like that. Oh yeah, all right. So Kaine is in Houston, and he's at the port, and there's some deal going down, and he interrupts it. And there's one panel where there are a bunch of spiders on the ground, and it's not referenced, it's not acknowledged or explained at all, but then it comes back sort of like 5 issues from now. And it was not acknowledged in the short story and everything like that, and it just disappears for a while. And that panel, like, I don't know why they did that, because it doesn't make any sense at this moment.
No, it doesn't.
I mean, I don't know why they did that. It looks cool.
It doesn't.
Yeah. It looks pretty cool.
No.
It looks pretty cool.
Not really.
All right, we got the artist's opinion, so shut down. So he's
Also, on this same page, he is dodging bullets, and none of those bullets look like they would come from the shotguns being fired at him. Because shotguns, typically, you don't shoot bullets out of shotguns, you shoot shot, which is
Well, much like you told me last week, it's a comic book, so shut up.
But it looks bad, too. Like, one, the bullets are way too big in these images. Like, in the last image, I should say. And it doesn't make sense in context, and it just looks dumb.
Well, more than that, we know he doesn't have his spider sense. How is he dodging bullets?
He's just that fast.
Good.
Really, really good.
That good.
But like Pete dodges bullets. Pete does bullets because of his spider sense.
Yes, that's true.
Kaine's just I don't know, fast. That's not good enough.
This is the point where you say it's a comic. Shut up.
Wow, Billy.
So Kaine stops the deal, but his plan was to just take the cash for himself because Kaine needs money. And this is a great introduction to our very honorable character. Really more of an upstanding guy than Peter Parker.
Well,
And
they've both stolen shit at this point, so.
yes.
Remember when Pete stole that hot dog?
And
Yep.
he stole a newspaper before.
He was throwing cops into the New York City rivers, which is not healthy at all.
Peter Parker, not a good guy. So the
He's
deal, it wasn't weapons and it wasn't drugs. It was bodies, but they're all dead. So I don't know how they fucked that up. And the men were for slavery and the women for prostitution.
See, they forgot to poke holes in the box, and this is what happens.
Rookie mistake.
Yeah. Whenever you're getting your kid a pet, you need to poke holes in the box.
Kaine saves one survivor, and we have he's like whatever. He goes into flashback mode. We finally get our Clone Saga recap, and there's one splash page of Peter and Ben fighting Kaine, and it's pretty great.
It's really cool.
I would say all of these issues have about one really awesome full page splash each. Nice ratio on these art wise. And I think we get like it's not a splash, but we get 2 pages flowing together of Clone Saga recap and what the hell Kaine's been up to and Spider Island, Grim Hunt, and all that shit. And I don't know if I was just positive on the rest of it, but all things considered, the recap isn't terrible. It doesn't like kill the momentum, and of course, it is a first issue, so it is what it is.
Also, Kaine shaves his beard and hair using his hand.
Yeah,
Wait,
I don't. Does he do that?
it looks
don't
like
know.
it.
I didn't notice it until he pointed out.
Well, you don't see a razor on the edge of the sink at all, so
I think he's just putting shaving cream on his hand and then just like
like,
It looks like is he using the mark of Cain to save?
I don't know.
Yeah, it doesn't show a razor like on the panel or
Usually
whatever.
it's
So I'm
cooler
assuming
in
like how he's doing
comics.
it.
It's kind of great.
Superman uses heat vision in the mirror, or Kane just using his hand.
But yeah, so the whole goatee thing was entirely pointless, and the mullet. And now he's just buzz cut, clean shaven. He kind of looks like a very skinny Eddie Brock.
He does. I had the exact same thought.
But now that he's gotten rid of his edgy beard and hair, he's a little cheery. And then we're getting some world building. There's like a full page where he's swinging around, and then he realizes, fuck, Houston is really hot and humid. And I thought that was fun. And this issue ends, or as we get towards the end of the issue, this edgelord shows up at the port with face tats and fire eyes, and so he's going to be our next villain.
Don't forget the piercing.
Yes, and Kaine, as he's adjusting and sort of trying to be a superhero, he saves an old woman from getting hit by a truck, much like Sarah
Yeah, but
Paulson's
also
character.
mutilates a man in the process.
Yeah.
And then after he does this, he just curses at the woman that he just saved.
Yeah. It's like really establishing how he is as a hero, at least at this juncture before he like more fully accepts it. I think it's funny and fucked up and works really well.
Like throughout this whole like 6 issues, it shows how like badly Kaine is at interacting with people. And it's very funny.
Yeah, relatable.
Yeah, better, more relatable than Peter Parker, you could say. The survivor's name, she's a teenage girl. Her name is, how do you guys pronounce this?
I don't know.
I
I
would
didn't
say
know how to this.
Araceli? I don't know. Because I assume it's supposed to be like Spanish.
Exactly.
And then I want to highlight there is no letters page because there are no letters yet. It's the first issue. So the creative team and everything, they do a little some editorial kind of stuff. And I want to quote Christopher Yost. This is pretty much direct quote. I don't want to get emotional about this, but I loved the 90s. I loved the big guns, the shoulder pads, the weird pouches, but most of all, I loved the hoodie. It's a real honor to be able to spin the tale of the all-new, all-different Scarlet Spider for you. And I couldn't think of a better person I would want on a Scarlet Spider book based on that. And that's kind of interesting where like, and this book is like 8 years old at this point, but this is where you're getting to an era where the people who grew up loving 90s books are writing the comic books.
I was going to say, he probably read that stuff as a kid, which is why he looks back fondly on it. So,
and I would say, and Yost is probably like in his 40s. I would say the poster child for that like concept, as far as the 90s kids taking over the asylum, is Donny Cates.
Yeah.
For better or worse. I think it's kind of awesome, even if I don't necessarily gobble up all of Donny Cates' work so far. And then some little highlights from Steve Wacker, editorial. Wacker, of course, longtime Spider-Man editor. There are no bad characters, just lost opportunities. And he's bringing that up as a saying that everyone says.
Can I ask him for the 10 years of lost opportunities with Dan Slotts on them?
Well, yeah, but obviously Spider-Man is not a bad character. Well, maybe not obviously.
That's debatable. I don't, yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I repeat this saying all the time. There are no bad characters. Just bad runs, bad comics, bad writers.
There are no bad dogs. There are no bad dogs, just bad owners.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's also is talking about some of the other stuff in the Spider-Man line at this point. That this book, it's just like what they've done with Venom. They're taking the name, redefining it for a new era in a way that old fans will respect and accept based on the continuity and respecting the core premise of the characters and everything like that. And then Marvel will get rid of all that development. Kaine just kind of stops being in this suit and a major character. And it takes a little bit longer, but they get Flash Thompson out of the Venom suit. And that's where Donny Cates eventually comes in. Now, issue 2, it picks up with him leaving Houston again. So there's definitely some timeline discrepancy here, right?
Yes.
Is there?
Well, he was at the port in Houston in the first issue. Wait, never mind.
No, the issue ended with him leaving.
All right, so he's leaving Houston.
Yeah.
But no, I think in the end of the first issue, they tease that shit is going down at the hospital as well. Yeah. And so it's more like we get a little bit of retread. And so he steals someone's car, kicks them out onto the road. Again, establishing that he's kind of a dick. He's more of an anti-hero type. And we get a killer splash page of Kaine busting through a window with glass everywhere and fire behind him. Because the villain is a dumb edgelord with fire-based powers. And that's a fucking amazing splash page. I would love to see the original art on that.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting, and I feel like this fight emphasized it more than future ones. But at least here, Kaine has a different fighting style where he does more of a scratching kind of thing, or claws.
Yeah, he tends to claw at enemies more than rather than punching them.
But then within the rest of this episode, like we don't get the same kind of fights, so it's understandable, but we don't see that as prominent moving forward. And speaking of Kaine's fighting style and what kind of hero he is, he then picks up a gun and shoots it, which is
This Kaine cool.
Yeah, it's definitely, this is a way to quickly contrast your Spider-Man spinoff, is to have a character in a Spider-Man costume shoot a gun.
Well, I like that because it was like he wasn't taking him out with his powers, and he's like, "Well, let's see if a gun slows him down."
This is something that danced a lot with Steel Superior, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely, I feel like the characterization of Kaine, they're like, you definitely see parallels with Superior.
Yes.
And Superior technically barely takes place after this. So kind of weird. And more fighting style stuff. Kaine cocoons himself up in webs to pretend that he's like playing dead or whatever, and then ambushes the guy and reverse cocoons him, which I think is cool. Has Peter ever, like, I'm trying to think if I've ever seen Peter cocoon himself up.
He did in the other.
Oh, ouch. And now we get our supporting characters. We have a police officer and a doctor. And I think the police officer's name is Layton, Sergeant Layton.
Yes.
I think it's Wally
Yeah.
Layton. And the doctor's name is, I forget his, Terrence. I don't know. I'm just gonna call them cop and doctor. And they're his supporting cast. I mean, I just don't remember their names. I think they're actually pretty decent supporting cast members.
Yeah,
And
I like them.
Erasely, however you say her name, she's for all we know, she's probably an illegal immigrant. So government would deport her. So the police officer friend is just like, hey, just kind of kidnap this girl effectively. Because Kaine's home base is a super expensive hotel suite. And the cop has a line where he's basically says, this isn't New York. Houston doesn't have a superhero, and we need one. And which I like, this is, to me, a major, major appeal of this book is the fact that it's set in Houston.
Mhm.
Because 90% of Marvel titles are set in New York, and it's just overcrowded, and it's not that interesting. And you have this entire country, let alone world. And hypothetically, there are shitloads of superheroes in this world, so spread them out. And DC obviously does a better job of doing that. Of course, most of their cities are fictional. And so I think it's really cool when you spread the love and drop a hero in a city that is not New York.
Yeah,
Plus, later on, we see him try to adjust to swing around in Houston because there's not as many skyscrapers.
Yeah.
The problem you run into with New York is that you can't set up a big event that just includes one character, because then the question comes in, where are all these other teams and other characters when this giant event is happening? Why aren't they helping? Which is something we've run into multiple times on this podcast, where it's like, these are massive events, and yet it just seems to be Spider-Man involved.
Yeah, that's a good point, because then if you want to do something huge scale in Houston, then you're not going to ask where the hell is so-and-so. And and at the end of this episode, they kind of flipped that, which I think was great, and we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But back to like spreading the love around, this is around the same time as well when Venom moves to Philly. And so the Spider-Man spin-off books, they're kind of spreading it around, which was cool. Also, in the letters page for the second issue, it's mentioned how Yost and Ryan Stegman took a trip to Houston to do some research. which is definitely cool.
That's
They
cool.
mentioned. I remember they mentioned the Chase building at one point in this, so like they definitely use famous Houston landmarks.
Issue 3, Kaine tortures a potential rapist and is really hammering home what kind of hero he is. He threatens to break this guy's bones and skin him alive if he doesn't leave Houston permanently. And like Mike said, so we're getting lots of development of Kaine's character, also lots of world building. Kaine fucks up his web swinging because there aren't skyscrapers everywhere. And new supporting cast member, Annabelle Adams, following the classic Stan Lee / comics in general alliteration pattern. She's the hotel bartender where Kaine is staying, and she's a redhead, sort of. I feel like the coloring is inconsistent with her hair.
Well, yeah, her hair is purple later.
Yeah, sometimes it's straight up like traditional, as you'd expect a redhead to look in comics, and sometimes it's pink or purple.
Honestly, I just write that down as okay. She dyes it.
Yeah, I
that's what I
thought
did
it was dyed.
Or a wig, because that would actually make sense in the context later. And so the cop and doctor, the reveal in this issue is that they are married. They are gay men. And I think it's played off about as perfectly as you could do it, where it's revealed and then the doctor, there's a quick moment where he's like, is that a problem? And Kaine's like, nah. There's no like, there's no forced tension out of it or anything like that.
Some of the current writers for Marvel should take notes on how to handle inserting diversity in your comics.
Hey.
For sure.
And now we're part of the Comicsgate movement. Thanks, Billy.
Yo, EVS, get on it. Get on it. Has Van Sciver ever drawn Spider-Man? I'll have to check that.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he has.
I don't know much Marvel work he's done, honestly.
New X-Men.
Yeah. I do want to ask this question though. We see a guy get shot in the head in this book, and like we see the bullet hole in the head. This issue 3 here opens up with like this pretty bloody scene in a hospital room. Do you feel like this book's a little bit more violent than your standard Marvel comic? Because I feel like it is.
I would think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And like when the guy got put through the car windshield earlier, that was a pretty grisly panel.
Yeah, so it is kind of a deviation to like kind of see this. It's not obviously on like the tone of a Max book, but it's like it verges on something like that. I always go back to that panel in Siege where Sentry rips apart Ares. I'm like, that's so gory that it doesn't belong in a mainstream Marvel book.
Yeah.
I don't think this, like, I feel like this is right. It's steps below that, but like, it is kind of weird to see, like, Marvel's standard rating system kind of going this hard on violence.
I agree. Yeah.
So then there are assassins involved, and an assassin is trying to kill the doctor friend because he let some guy's family die after an accident.
He didn't let him die.
Well, yeah. You know what I mean. He's a doctor. And the assassin recognizes who Kaine is. And so we get some insert Kaine backstory. He's part of the Assassin's Guild. And so, yes, the villain for the next issue, and popping up way later in the run, is now Belladonna, Gambit's ex-wife.
Yep.
Okay. 2 comments. 1, the sniper assassin that recognizes Kaine kind of just looks like a shitty version of Lobo. 2, this book essentially becomes John Wick Chapter 2. And I don't know how many of you guys have seen that movie, but
both of them.
Yeah. Former assassin gets hunted by his colleagues because he's no longer an assassin. That's basically the plot.
Yep.
And what's funny is that like I was literally watching that while I was reading this.
And I think we cannot get through this fight between Scarlet Spider and knockoff Lobo Assassin without mentioning the fact that they do destroy a chimney.
Ooh, that's right.
Add it to
Kaine
the tower.
doesn't punch it himself, so I'm a little disappointed. But a chimney does take some damage in this fight, and I was very happy to see that.
I wish, like, it can't be a coincidence.
No, it can't
There's
be.
no way.
We need to get Yost on this podcast. Don't ask him about it.
All right, let's get the screenwriter of Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
We can do it. And so I just want to quickly talk about Belladonna. And so she created in, I believe, X-Men, Aegis was X-Men number 8. And so that's post Claremont. Jim Lee is still around though. And in fact, and that the issues that introduce her are actually a crossover with Danny Ketch Ghost Rider. And it's pretty awesome. And I don't really find her remotely interesting at all. But she died, and the whole Assassin's Guild was just totally fucked up and dismantled in a Cullen Bunn Deadpool miniseries last year, which I just learned. Apparently, there was a series called Deadpool Assassin. I didn't know this. There are too many Deadpool series.
There's way too many Deadpool books.
I think one is too many.
I would agree in some points.
No, when he stays in his lane and has his one book, it's fine. When he's on 6 different teams and has 8 books, it's a problem.
Also,
Deadpool shouldn't be really on any team. Maybe X-Force. Maybe.
I think if it's handled like how Mikey, please mute your mic. Thank you. I think if it's handled like how it was in Deadpool 2, where it's just like a total joke that he's even referenced in like an X related book, then I think that's all right. And I agree that if he just has his own solo book and he sticks to that, I can get behind it. But like he's become so oversaturated, and I hate the character now.
Oh no, same. I do want to point out though, at the end of issue 3, they in the letters page they do advertise that the epic. If you're wondering what's going on in Amazing Spider-Man, the epic Ends of the Earth begins in Amazing Spider-Man 682.
Oh no.
Oh no.
On the road to 700. Now, issue 4, we have a flashback to Kaine's hired killer area, which we actually saw before. In those Brand New Day arcs, it was referenced how Kaine hired killer pass.
Well, Vince, I hate to interrupt you, but Avengers vs. X-Men round 1 also starts in April.
Yeah, no good. Worse than Ends of the Earth. Far worse. I mean, Ends of the Earth is actually kind of good.
I'm tempted to. I haven't read AVX, but I want to read just the one issue where Spider-Man fights Colossus and Magic, because that sounds really cool.
Yeah, because it's the one issue written by Brubaker, and it's the best one.
Yes, exactly. The rest of the story sounds like just trash.
So now back to the present.
The hardcover. I do.
Kaine.
I'm sorry.
He has to fend off all the other major Assassin's Guild members. And so he tries to kill a hand ninja bullseye style, which I thought was great. And there's some subplots going on. The cop and doctor break into the rich guy's house, and he's connected to the guild. And Erasali has amnesia, and suddenly she knows English partly, and she buys a hoodie. And we'll get back to that later.
A blue hoodie.
Yes. One of these assassins, he has, it's not clear if it's his powers or if he has gadgets, but he can summon guns to his hands. And so Kaine is like, well, try this, and just breaks his hand. And it's like, you can summon them, but you're not going to be able to pull the trigger.
What's this dude's name? His name's like Smithy or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought this was awesome. Like, this entire...
That was badass.
Then it's not really clear because earlier he's like, I'm not, like he keeps deciding I'm not going to kill people. but I kind of want to. But he totally punches a hole through this ninja's head.
Well, yeah, and then he finds out that, and the best part about that is that he finds out it's a hand ninja that can't die, and he's like, well, I guess I'll throw you off a roof. That'll try to slow you down at least.
Yeah, see, he knew that it couldn't die. That's why he punched through its head.
Yeah. I mean, good excuse. I mean, killing zombies doesn't count. And then the other assassin is a edgy sword guy with a dumb skeleton costume. And he has two swords, but only momentarily, because then Kaine cuts his leg off with his own sword. And these like 3 panels are like, I think they're amazing action, and they're really fucking cool.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
For sure.
Like,
Yeah. Stegman does some really beautiful work throughout this book, especially during this fight.
you could totally see this as like an anime scene where it goes like slow motion and then the leg falls off and shit, and
Yeah.
with the blood splattering.
well, the thing, it's great. He punches through the skull of the undead hand ninja, which causes the sword to fly up in the air. He catches the sword and then chops off the leg, and it all happens in the span of like 5 panels, and it's great.
Also, one of these assassins is just straight up a little girl, and he defeats her by webbing her feet as she runs after him and making her fall flat on her face, which is hilarious. And then, kind of skipping ahead, the assassins get called back, and you see where they were sitting, and there's a shit ton of blood, like underneath where all of them were, including her.
Including her, I didn't even notice that.
This girl hit the ground so fucking hard that her face started bleeding all over the floor.
Well,
There's
yeah, because she
actually-
falls face first.
There's literally more blood where she was than at the spot where he punched the guy's head.
It's true.
I want to add something that like this girl has like straight up super strength, and like when King gets punched and she gets hit, like, and he like when she punches him into a wall, he adds like, I just got punched into a wall by a 90-pound-year-old girl, and he's like, that fucking sucks.
Yeah, a 90-pound-year-old girl.
This is like the evil version of Molly Hayes.
Honestly, yeah, that's what I thought when I was reading this.
And then the issue ends with Kaine. He's like, well, yeah, is I think it's the end of this issue. He calls up Belladonna, and it's like, all right, I'll kill one person for you, and then you have to leave me alone. And she accepts that deal. So then he's back at the hotel room and having a guilt trip about all the people he killed in his Kaine days. And I thought this, like, as far as handling, like, over the top, hammering home that a character has guilt, I thought this was handled pretty well.
Mhm.
We get a nice vomit into the toilet panel.
It's a beautiful panel of just like an inhumanly large amount of vomit coming out of his mouth.
Well, he's not completely human, so it makes sense that his spider powers give him more vomit.
Spider
And-
vomit. Radioactive vomit.
Annabelle
Can see in the dark, he can vomit more than the normal human.
All of his fluids are irradiated.
The proportional vomit of a spider.
Annabelle figures out that he is Scarlet Spider. And it's not like fully addressed. Like, they don't have their heart to heart, like, oh shit, you're a superhero within the next few issues. Also, he's named Scarlet Spider just by the media because he wears a red costume. Now, number 5, unfortunately, Ryan Stegman is out for this issue. And we have Neil Edwards drawing it with Carl Kessel on inks. And it's totally a step down, but I don't think it was that bad.
I feel like you were like one step away from saying Neil Adams, and I was going to be very confused.
But how did you guys feel about the art in number 5?
It's serviceable, but I miss Stegman.
It's noticeably different, but I was fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad art. It's just, yeah, just kind of the jump is a little,
It reminds me of a little bit of Brian Hitch. It's a little bit Brian Hitchy in the faces.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was at first. But yeah, the art's it's good, but like Stegman had something special to his art that I really liked with the other issues.
Yeah. So this is like you could argue this is kind of a fill-in, but it's Yost still. It's still developing characters and everything like that. And so it's fine. I mean, the thing is with this series is you definitely have arcs. Like, in fact, in later issues, you even have issues being called part one, part two, and stuff like that. But I think, and we'll discuss this more when we end, but I think this series really well like weaves in lots of plots, and so it just naturally flows as a comic book run rather than here's the first trade and here's a 6-issue story.
I agree.
So the fill-in plot for this issue is Scarlet Spider is chasing a nuke in Houston that's been brought in by far-right radicals. And so he interrogates a skinhead, and we get a little bit more of his more brutal tactics compared to Spider-Man. And also, we didn't mention it earlier because it's just a throwaway joke, but there's another throwaway joke here, so we'll acknowledge it, that the mayor of Houston is named Parker. And there's also like a joke, or his police officer friend says Pete at some point. And so Kaine, it's just an easy gag. Like if there's any mention of Peter or Parker, Kaine is like, ugh. And so obviously there's this nuke that's about to go off in Houston. So you got to call in the big guns, and they finally call up Daisy Johnson, who's the head of S.H.I.E.L.D. at this point, and she calls in Iron Man. And I'll just spoil it. What happens at the end of this issue is that Iron Man totally wasn't going to make it. If it weren't for Scarlet Spider, Houston would have just blown up by a nuke, and Iron Man would have just been still 2 minutes away. And he gets called off, and it's just like this hilarious cameo or non-cameo.
And you know what would have happened if Houston got destroyed because Iron Man didn't make it there on time? He'd feel incredibly guilty and start drinking again, and they would have Civil War II 10 years before it happened.
Yeah.
Jesus.
But the usage of Iron Man, like this whole part is hilarious.
Well,
Yeah.
I feel like
Really-
this whole thing exists because when we see like Nick Fury Jr. and Coulson later, it's literally just them like inserting that, hey, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show is happening now, and also synergy across the board. So
I mean,
I felt like it was shoehorned in.
that's probably part of it, but I love the Iron Man part because it's exactly what Billy was saying.
Oh yeah,
It's setting up that Scarlet Spider is Houston's superhero,
yeah.
and other people can't just pop in and save the day.
I have like a quick question. Oh, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say, of course, Iron Man can't make it in time, but other characters totally could. Doctor Strange or Thor could show up and totally solve this issue.
Or Cloak and Dagger.
Sure.
Dagger.
Go ahead, Mikey.
How long was Quake director of S.H.I.E.L.D. for? Because I didn't even know she was director of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's like new to me.
I did look that up too. I was like, Quake was director of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
Yeah. I can't answer. I'm not sure like precise timing and stuff.
Well, since I looked it up, can you name every character in the 616 who has been director of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Because I looked it up on the Marvel Wiki.
Well, a lot of them I wouldn't be able to name at all.
Well, there's only like 4.
Oh, it only counts.
Nick Fury, Tony Stark, Davy Johnson, Norman Osborn, other Nick
No,
Fury.
that was Hammer. It wasn't S.H.I.E.L.D.
It's Hammer. It's not S.H.I.E.L.D.
Doesn't count.
No, they didn't count
No.
it. On the Marvel Wiki, it did not count Norman as S.H.I.E.L.D. They counted it for Hammer.
Well, it's whoever his villain is in versus S.H.I.E.L.D. or whatever.
Maria Hill.
I don't know.
The ones that were listed it's Nick Fury, Maria Hill, Quake, Tony, and Steve. It's 5.
Oh, I forgot about Steve. Okay.
There are definitely others. They're just not.
Yeah, I looked at it. I was like, only 5 seems a little small, but like,
there are definitely non-powered characters. And so yeah, so this far right leader, he's inspired by Red Skull, and we were talking about the violence and how, like the maturity of this book. He blows his brains out. We don't. It's off panel, but we see like a pretty like a.
You see that blood splatter.
Well, you see the splatter, but even before that, I think it's pretty um like mature or passing a line where you see him like. I mean, I think it's interesting to see in a Marvel comic someone pointing a gun in their mouth.
Yeah.
Like even that panel, grabs your attention.
Yeah.
And here is the reveal that Kaine can talk to spiders.
I hate it. It's corny.
I mean, I'm okay with it, but why?
See, I don't think it's corny. I think it's just dumb.
I think it's awesome.
He's not the other yet, is he?
No. This
So
is
why
just,
can he do this?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Why does he
They
have,
don't really explain it.
why does he
Why
have
can he
organic
be in the dark?
It's because like a
Oh,
couple weeks ago, he was literally a giant spider.
I thought because he had like the wrist things and the organic webbing, and he could talk to spiders, I assumed this was the other. But is he not? Yet?
I don't know. Maybe he is. I mean, not at least not in anything we've read yet. It hasn't been
Right.
because there's
So I don't.
nothing between. So he can talk to spiders, and he uses them as scouts to figure out where this bomb is. And then the book talk about like world building and being set in Houston. It uses the extensive underground system of Houston, which a few letters in like the second issue from Houstonians writing in were like, "Hey, you got to use this. Hey, I want to see this." And maybe that was from those or from Yost and Stegman's research trip, or they were just planning on it anyways. But that's cool, even though it's just real quick. It's not focused on. And they got to the bomb, and the clock is ticking, and they're underground. So like, well, we have no idea what we can't like run this out. And so they basically figure out, oh, we're gonna die here, and Houston's gonna die, and everything like that. And Kaine, with those stakes at hand, Kaine just rips the wires, and the bomb's disarmed. And I thought that was fun too.
Yeah, I really like that.
And Sergeant Layton gets all the credit though, because Kaine goes stealth mode, and that's a little fun too. Now let's get into number 6, our last issue for the day. More world building and everything like that. Unlike Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Houston just really openly welcomes Kaine. And again, it's an interesting, contrast, and particularly because he is a different kind of hero. Like, if anything, Kaine is actually how Jonah sees Spider-Man.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting.
But Houstonians are getting tattoos of spiders on them. The mayor's spokesperson basically straight up co-signs him, and so does the police department. It's pretty great, and I guess the little kid has an action figure of Scarlet Spider.
No, it's a
No,
Spider-Man action figure.
It's a regular Spider-Man.
All right.
But also, then Kaine gets a really dumb-looking tattoo.
Yeah, what is it?
It's just
Tribal.
like a tribal tattoo. This was weird. But I guess it's just supposed to show like, all right, Kaine doesn't give a fuck, or like that's kind of it.
I guess.
I thought it would have been cool if he would have gotten like something of a pattern resembling like the scars he used to have. But
I don't know though. But that would be like really edgy. Like the point of this is just to show like he doesn't care.
But that in itself is super edgy.
It's a different kind of edgy. And we finally get the reveal that Kaine's suit is red because Madam Web is just weird and likes her fashion sense. She's forcing her fashion sense onto Kaine. She took Peter's big time stealth suit and just colored it red.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
It's just a really dumb explanation for the cool design. And we're getting more we're finally 6 issues in, getting way more development with S.H.I.E.L.D. And it's not said in words here, but she's an empath, similar to Mantis, which is just telepath, but you're not
Did you say
actually.
Mantis?
Yeah, like Mantis.
Oh, I thought you said Man Thing. I'm like,
No.
yes. Oh.
Also Man Thing.
But also Man Thing, yeah.
Wait, can Man Thing sense any like other emotions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he senses the entire emotional spectrum, but negative emotions really get his goat.
Yeah, but see, like, sometimes it's just fear and, like, negative emotions that he can, like, use that to, like, burn people, but other times it's just any strong emotion at all.
Man
Like,
Thing's great.
Yeah, like, if you're really happy, man, they could just ruin your day.
I have not experienced that in my Man Thing quest, but I love that. I love that.
I don't know. I think it was just like a random like one-off thing where that maybe they just like were mentioning Man Thing and they just totally didn't describe him correctly, and they were just like, oh yeah, and he just strong emotion, he feeds off of it. But
I kind of dig the idea that he can't handle extreme emotion and he has to burn it away.
So
It's
S.H.I.E.L.D. wears a blue hoodie because it annoys Kaine. Even though she doesn't understand the connection to Ben Reilly and everything. And other supporting cast development, Annabelle is like, it's not really clear because obviously comics don't have sound, but I interpreted her as being a Christian metal singer.
It's definitely Christian rock or Christian metal.
Yeah.
I'm leaning like slightly more hardcore because she's wearing like fishnets and everything.
I don't know. I think it's like some weird Christian like punk pop.
Well, it's definitely more on the hardcore
Christian
side.
punk? Is that a thing?
Probably.
Yeah, Christian anything is a thing.
Like their look is extremely light for me to say it's metal.
Well, I don't know. She's wearing a little bit more than you might expect from like corny traditional Christian rock, and also people are totally moshing.
Oh yeah, people are moshing.
They're
Right.
moshing and they're drinking.
Yeah, and there are people like headbanging and shit. Yeah.
This ain't your normal. This ain't a Newsboys concert, is what you're saying.
Yeah, but I think it's like really dumb, but also great that she's a Christian rock
So
singer.
weird.
It's so random too. Like it comes out of nowhere.
It's just so far left field, and then the fact that Kaine shows up there and then gets sliced across the arm and he's bleeding and running around as this Christian music show is going on is just kind of like this beautiful disaster.
Yeah,
That just kind of makes me laugh.
It's insane.
he gets cut by Ava Kravinoff, who is back in action. And
Yeah.
I love how Kaine's first reaction is, I'm gonna go kill this little bitch.
Keep in mind, they're in a church.
Yeah, because she killed him and fucked with Peter and everything like that. But she Molotovs the place and drugs him, and then like I loved these few pages where there's just fire in the background everywhere, and Kaine is drugged out, and they're having this like slow, sloppy fight. And
real quick though, the Molotov that he throws, it says Yoast 85 on it. I think it's important to point out.
yeah, I guess
It's
kind of weird because I mean that was Stegman who put it in, but I really hate when creators reference themselves in their comics.
No, you don't. No, you don't. Stan Lee and Jack Kirby showed up at Reed's wedding. You don't hate that.
No. I like that.
I prefer when they showed up in Uncanny X-Men.
I don't like
Yes.
I don't like them putting their names on signs in the background.
But it's Chris. It's
That's
Yost
so
on a bottle
specific,
of
Vincent.
alcohol. It's not really that Like, it's not that bad.
I don't. It annoys me.
That's annoying. Now, if they had been there in person during the Kristen Metal concert, that would have been all right. But having his name on
It
the
would
bottle too
explain
far,
more about Chris Yost's
I don't-
sensibilities, man.
That's cool.
I don't get it.
Okay,
Okay.
honestly, if they were just in the background fucking jamming out to this concert, that would be so great.
Yeah, that'd be great. And she reveals quickly that she killed her brother Alexei, the star of Spider-Man Get Craven.
Damn.
So rest in peace, died off panel. Though I think he's comes back again.
Wait, didn't Grim Hunt? No, he killed him at the end of Grim Hunt.
No, I don't think you see it on panel.
No, you don't. You see her going to hunt
The
him.
three of
Maybe you're right.
no, I think Sergei kills what's his other son's name?
Aloysius.
I think Sergei kills Alyosha. He kills his wife, I think.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
Alexei's like, "You guys are fucking crazy," and just starts running. And then he's like, "Ava, go kill your brother."
I think you're right. Yeah, you're right.
No, the three of them go to the Savage Land. And
Yeah, and then.
yeah, that's where he kills them. Yeah,
Doesn't his wife go with them?
yeah, no, all five of them actually.
So Sergei kills two of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. I have to say, I mean, I don't have to say it. I'm going to. I was, really enjoying the first 5 issues, and then the Kravenovs showed up, and I was very nervous. But I ended up enjoying this also.
Yeah, I mean, I really love this fight scene, and especially towards the end. There's this one panel where it's just all fire in the background, and Kaine, and at this point he doesn't have a shirt on for some reason.
Well, it got burned off.
Yeah, and he's like, there's just blood flowing all over him.
It's gruesome.
It's this fucking amazing panel by Saga.
It's so cool.
It's definitely cooler than Donny Cates' Venom.
There's a panel where he's drawing like the support beams of the church falling out, and then crashing down. It just looks so good.
But Kaine finally, puts his thinking cap on, and he's like, "I gotta get the fuck out of here, otherwise I'm gonna die." And before he does, Ava tells him that Daddy's coming. And so the Kravenoffs are after Kaine.
Okay, I have not read, the rest of the Scarlet Spider thing, but I don't really want the Kravenovs to be major players.
Well, that's what it is.
All right, fine.
I mean, well, it totally makes sense though. I mean, this is coming out in a month.
It does. Yeah, it does.
And I mean, what is Slott doing with the Kravenoffs at this point? Remember, Grim Hunt wasn't even Slott.
No, nothing.
And so
here, who cares? Let's keep going.
Now this issue 6, which it would be the end of the first trade, we get 4 epilogues. Which
we get Chris Yost pulling a Peter Jackson with the Return of the King.
The fact that they're all labeled as epilogue, like, I think you could have just taken that caption out and it wouldn't have been as annoying. Mm-hmm. But calling attention to it, it's like, okay. But running through them, epilogue 1, Kaine talks to a priest outside of the burned down church. And I don't remember if he suddenly gets like all Matt Murdock / Eddie Brock. I don't think he really does. This is really just a gag because his name is Kaine.
Yeah.
And it also sets up this great splash page with some captions. And the captions, I'll just read them verbatim. My name is Kaine. They're calling me Scarlet Spider. Another man's name, a better man, Ben Reilly, but I'm trying. And It's a great splash page, Stegman with the whole costume and everything. And I like the captions acknowledging the Clone Saga, showing Kaine's character, and promising evolution.
My favorite part about the splash page is just the sunlight reflecting off of Kaine's ass as he swings.
And then Colonel Sanders shows up.
Yeah.
Now,
And
epilogue 2, we have Salamander, who I'm pretty sure. I mean, it's probably because I don't speak Spanish very well, but I don't think he's called Salamander in English any time before this.
No, he's not.
I just called him Colonel Sanders.
So the thing, he's connected to so and so. There's like the darkness thing, which Erasely teases. And then epilogue 3, Madam Web freaks the hell out. And she's teasing something else. It's not clear. And then epilogue 4, it's Craven and Ava. And there's a weird thing where she's like, "Are you going to kill me, Dad?" And I'm not, like, to me, I'm not clear if we're supposed to read that as that she wants to die or if she's just expecting maybe he's disappointed in her.
I think she's expecting to get killed because she failed killing Kaine.
Yeah. But you could I was thinking you could read it, or it could be written as her wanting to die.
I just find it weird that this epilogue takes place after the letters page.
Yeah, I guess because the biggest one or something. I mean, this is still an era where almost like way more people are reading physical, and so you're way less likely to skip a post credits like epilogue in a physical comic than digital.
But I mean, it's not like this is really a reveal that Cerity is going to be in the story. Like,
yeah,
she already said she was going to get her dad, and we all know who her dad is. It's not like we thought her dad was the Riddler or something.
Well, that, and we also know her dad is alive.
Yeah, it's like I don't. This page is kind of completely unnecessary.
Yep. And so that concludes Scarlet Spider. I'll say first that next episode we'll see a little bit of Superior Spider-Man and Scarlet Spider and Superior Spider-Man. And so that'll be our only, well, not our only, that'll be our first check-in with Superior Spider-Man. And we'll be, next episode is kind of half and half, but then we'll do another Kaine episode, and that'll be the finale of arc of his series with the Cravenoffs.
Okay.
And like I said, I mean, it's a little excessive with these 4 epilogues labeled as such. They could have definitely been weaved in better. But Yost is clearly like, here are things I'm setting up, and I'm just going to get to them when I get to them. I mean, even besides the epilogues, obviously the Assassin's Guild arc isn't done here.
Right.
And we have like 5 plot threads, and he's got a full supporting cast. And so, he can get the train moving. Unfortunately, the series only lasted, I think, 25 issues.
Yeah, 25.
Which, I mean, I think the ending is executed well with wrapping up the Cravenoff plotline from Grim Hunt, which started this whole thing. But it definitely, I mean, obviously, I think a lot of people would have appreciated a far longer run. But actually, just vamp. What did you guys think about the arc overall?
Yeah, what's interesting? We're not going to be talking about the entirety of this series for the show, but I think I'm going to read the whole thing. I think this is the first time in our time doing Saga the Clone Saga where I finished my reading and went, I kind of want to keep going.
See, I have a tendency to zone out when Vince starts talking, so I don't know what we're talking about. But I assume we're talking about Scarlet Spider. And I'll say that I actually totally blacked this out of my memory, but I'm pretty sure I read this as it came out.
Really?
Because I remember all, like, most of what we read today from, like, previous experience. So I couldn't tell you what happens next, but it's somewhere deep.
I dropped the book after issue 5, so issue 6 was the only issue I had not read. But I have only question with daily spider bites. If you read the rest of the series, you have to do daily scarlet spider bites.
Yes, I am.
You have to make a separate Instagram for that, though.
You have to make an entire separate Instagram.
for like the next 20 issues.
Hey, that's a solid like month and a half.
Well,
And remember,
if I need more content, I can go back and do Scarlet Spider Volume 1.
Yeah.
Matt, and remember, if they're not daily, you have to change the name from Daily Scarlet Spider Bites just to Scarlet Spider Bites.
I don't think I've done it in like a week. But okay, to be fair, I don't call the show itself is called Spider Bites. That was taken, so I had to do Daily Spider Bites for my handle.
Why don't you call it Amazing Spider Bites?
Spectacular spider bites.
So here,
Friendly Neighborhood Spider Bites.
here's
Web of Spider Bites.
Like that is such an obvious idea. I honestly don't know how I didn't think of it. Like, yeah, it should be Amazing Spider Bites. Oops.
So
You could have done Marvel Adventures Spider Bites if you really needed to dig the bottom of the barrel.
Mary Jane loves Spider Bites.
There you go. That actually works better, kind of, for some reason.
So Matt wants to read the rest of the series, and others have expressed, positive opinions on Scarlet Spider. And unfortunately, it ended at 25 issues. But Christopher Yost took Scarlet Spider, a lot of the same plot threads.
No, stop.
No,
stop.
Shut the fuck up.
Took it into New Warriors.
My God.
We see Kaine right here, and the glare is probably going to be bad. But you see this character in the green?
Glare is the only thing bad in that book.
That is Erasely. Erasely becomes Hummingbird. And she's an empath, and she has, like, shitty floating abilities. And I think it's kind of interesting how both Flash Thompson and both Flash Thompson and Kaine as Venom and Scarlet Spider, they both had teenage female sidekicks. Flash's doesn't appear until way later in his run, and that's Mania. But it's just interesting that they both had it, and then tragic that both those characters basically got like just thrown to the wayside, way harder than their mentor characters even.
Mm-hmm.
And like especially like as I said, Mania's late into that run. Especially Mania got fucked pretty hard because like there was a lot of potential development towards the end of that Venom series. Like the Scarlet Spider, I don't think it suffers as much as feeling like, fuck, there could have been 20 more issues when you get to the end. It doesn't feel like there's missing things. But Venom, in my opinion, was like that. But overall, like, and this is the thing where we were debating like whether or not Spider Island is actually good last episode. I feel like I kind of give Spider Island and Big Time, or at least the second half of Big Time, a little bit of leniency in general, because I feel that this era was probably the best that Spider-Man spin-offs were, or maybe have ever been.
Sure, yeah. As long as you're not reading any books with Peter Parker in it, then you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, that's the difficulty.
But Vince, I thought there was only one Spider-Man, and there could only be one Spider-Man.
I mean, Scarlet Spider is not Spider-Man.
No.
See, that's the thing. Scarlet Spider and Flash and Agent Venom are not Spider-Man. They're not trying to have their cake and eat it too. But in recent years, that's exactly what Marvel's doing, where you have Miles Morales and other characters and putting Miguel in, just like Miles. Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099, keeping him in 2099, and okay, here's a totally different version. It's separate, everything like that. Same with Miles. Miles has a whole character arc where Peter dies, inherits it, everything like that. But then when you bring them both into the same universe as Peter Parker, I think it lessens all three of the characters' kind of relevance and like power as characters within the shared universe.
Is
And
Miguel still in the 616?
no, I don't think he is anymore, but he was for like 40 issues or
It
whatever.
was for way too
Yeah.
long.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, there's Gwen also in the corner, but Gwen still to this day is doing, you know, what Miles and Miguel should be doing, in my opinion. But I understand it's a tricky thing. But basically, Marvel for a while had 4 Spider-Man titles on the stands, and like Spider-Man, not Scarlet Spider and Agent Venom. And then you have the like over the past, I mean, several years at this point, the weird forcing of Jessica Drew into the Spider-Man line, when she shouldn't be, even though obviously Spider-Woman you think she would be, but she's not.
No, not even related.
But yeah, this is my favorite. I think this might be my favorite like modern era for the Spider-Man line as a whole.
I mean, I think the only thing that could compete with it maybe is Right Now.
Yeah, but I'm like emphasizing spin-offs.
Okay, sure.
And capital S spin-offs, not like spectacular Spider-Man Marvel team-up, meaning like separate characters.
Now, Matt, when you say right now, do you mean with I don't know, is Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider still?
Yes.
Does that book still exist?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Ben Reilly
still
Scarlet Spider, Spider Gwen and Miles's shit?
Yeah,
Or
Miles.
are you referring specifically to Spider Verse, which I think is still going on or just wrapped up recently?
I am not referring to Spider-Verse. I forgot that was a thing that happened. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I mean, here's the weird thing: is that we now have multiple books starring Peter for the first time in a while, not counting like Avenging Spider-Man because that's just a new version of Marvel Team Up. But now we have what? We have Amazing, Spectacular, which just ended, but then Friendly Neighborhood started back up.
And Spider-Man Deadpool.
Yeah, fuck, that book still exists.
That book's
Shut
still
up.
going.
God.
Stop. We don't talk about that.
It's like over 50. Apparently it's good though, that's the thing.
I read the first 3 trades of it, and I thought it was pretty fun.
Yeah, so this has been a long postscript, just like the 4 epilogues in this final issue. And so I would say overall, definitely 2 thumbs up from all of us on Scarlet Spider.
I agree. I can't wait to see this character get ruined by Dan Slott in a couple episodes.
So tune in for that, and peace.
Bye-bye.
See ya.